King Charles III made a decision so striking, so deeply personal, that even those closest to the crown were left speechless. He reached into the very heart of his marriage.
Camilla brought 20 Parker Bowleses to the coronation. There were 4 Middletons.
Within the gilded halls of Buckingham Palace, where every gesture is choreographed and every whisper carries the weight of history, a seismic shift has occurred. It was not announced with a fanfare or a formal press release from the Privy Council. Instead, it manifested in a series of deliberate, cold, and utterly unmistakable actions. King Charles III, a monarch who has waited 7 decades for his reign, has just made a choice that redefines the very architecture of the modern British monarchy. He has, in effect, taken the crown from his wife, Queen Camilla, and placed it firmly into the hands of Catherine, Princess of Wales. And when Camilla, reportedly panicked by her eroding position, issued a final, desperate demand to secure her legacy, the king, the man she stood by through decades of scorn, simply said no. To understand the magnitude of this rupture, one must look past the serene family photographs released at Christmas. The turning point came not in a moment of crisis, but during a routine planning meeting for the 2026 Commonwealth Day service. For months, insiders claim, Camilla had been quietly lobbying for a specific guarantee, that when the king passes or is incapacitated, she would be granted the unprecedented role of Queen Dowager, with a permanent, funded household and the right to use the crown jewels for state occasions independent of William and Catherine. It was her final demand, a bid to ensure that the woman who was once the other woman would never be erased from the official record. The king's rejection, delivered via the master of the household, was reportedly so absolute that it left Camilla in stunned silence. The crown she wore at the coronation, the one she fought a lifetime to touch, is being reallocated in real time. The mechanism of this transfer is not a legal seizure, but a symbolic dismantling. It began subtly at the state opening of Parliament in late 2025. Traditionally, the Queen Consort stands 2 steps behind the monarch. On this day, Camilla followed protocol, but the cameras caught a devastating detail. King Charles turned his back fully to Camilla to speak at length with Catherine, who was positioned in the royal gallery shadows. He gestured for Catherine to stand closer, specifically, to stand in the light. This was not a slight born of anger. It was a strategic relocation of power. A senior courtier, speaking on condition of anonymity to a credible British broadsheet, described the scene as the passing of the baton. Charles looked at Catherine the way his mother looked at him in 1969. He sees her not as a daughter-in-law, but as the vessel for the crown's survival. Camilla simply watched. There was nothing she could do. This public embrace of Catherine is a direct reversal of the coronation's choreography in 2023. During that historic event, as your reference script notes, Charles famously forbade anyone but himself and Camilla from wearing crowns, forcing Catherine to wear a floral headpiece. It was a petty, insecure move designed to highlight Camilla's moment, but history has a cruel sense of irony. By attempting to dim Catherine's light, Charles accidentally revealed the fragility of his wife's position. The British public, who have watched Catherine handle her cancer diagnosis with a stoic grace that echoes the late Queen Elizabeth II, did not forget the snub. By 2026, the Princess of Wales is no longer just popular. She is untouchable. Polling from YouGov in January 2026 shows Catherine with an 81% approval rating, while Camilla languishes at 38%, the lowest of any senior royal. Charles, the pragmatist, has realized that his legacy depends not on protecting his wife's ego, but on aligning himself with the woman the public has already crowned. The final demand that Camilla made is the key to understanding this drama. According to sources close to the royal collection, Camilla's request was threefold. First, she demanded that the title Queen Camilla be enshrined in law forever, preventing William from downgrading her to Princess Dowager upon Charles's death. Second, she requested the permanent use of the Belgian state diadem, the crown with the famous diamonds, for her personal appearances, a symbol usually reserved for the reigning monarch or the heir's spouse. Third, and most provocatively, she asked for a clause that would allow her to retain a private apartment inside Windsor Castle's principal state rooms, not the modest Frogmore cottage, but the castle itself, effectively ensuring Catherine could never fully occupy the space as the new senior woman. The king's rejection was delivered in writing, a rare and brutal formality in a family that prefers whispers. The letter, which has been described to royal journalists by palace aides, was only 3 sentences long. It stated that the monarchy is not a property to be divided, but a service to be rendered. It concluded that the future belongs to the Prince and Princess of Wales, and that all arrangements must serve their ascension, not hinder it. For Camilla, who spent 17 years as the Duchess of Cornwall, waiting to be queen, hearing that her final demand was a hindrance rather than a right must have been the ultimate humiliation. She outlasted Diana. She outmaneuvered the press. But she cannot outrun the simple math of the monarchy. The crown is a rental, not a possession. Why is Charles doing this? It is easy to paint him as a cruel husband, but the reality is far more complex and tragic. Charles is a man who is genuinely ill. His cancer treatments have left him fatigued, and he knows that his reign may be short. He is also a man obsessed with history. He has seen how the monarchy almost collapsed in the 1990s. He knows that Camilla, despite her tireless work for osteoporosis and literacy, will never be a unifying figure. The ghost of Diana is not just a memory. It is a structural weakness in Camilla's armor. Every time Camilla wears a crown, a segment of the Commonwealth sees the woman who caused Diana's tears. Conversely, when Catherine wears a tiara, the world sees grace, stability, and the future. Therefore, Charles's rejection of Camilla is an act of survival. He is sacrificing his wife's comfort to save his son's throne. By giving Catherine the crown metaphorically, by making her the star of every state banquet, by assigning her the most senior military colonelcies, by leaking to the Times that he wants Queen Catherine to be crowned alongside William immediately upon his death, Charles is immunizing the monarchy against the chaos of transition. He is ensuring that when he is gone, the headlines will read, "The new Elizabethan age begins," rather than "Camilla fights for relevance." The fallout has been devastating for the Queen Consort. Reports indicate that Camilla has retreated to Mill, her private home, far more often than she visits the palace. She has canceled several solo engagements, claiming exhaustion, but aides whisper it is mortification. The staff has noticed a shift in power. Where once footmen rushed to open Camilla's door, they now linger near Catherine's office. The ultimate indignity came at a recent diplomatic reception. A visiting head of state, confused by the new hierarchy, reportedly asked Camilla, "And what is your role in the young prince's government?" She was asked what her role is. At a table of world leaders, she had to explain that she is merely the king's wife, while Catherine, sitting to the king's right, was introduced as the future of the realm. Yet, one must feel a sliver of pity. Camilla's final demand was not born of greed, but of terror. She knows that history has not been kind to widowed consorts. When William becomes king, Catherine will automatically become queen. Camilla will become nothing. Not the queen mother, she is not the mother of the monarch. Not the queen dowager, a title William is rumored to despise. She will likely be offered a distant title, perhaps Princess Camilla, and a small grace and favor house far from London. After a lifetime of chasing the ultimate prize, she is being told that the prize comes with an expiration date. Her demand for permanence was a desperate attempt to build a fortress against the inevitable loneliness of widowhood. Charles, by rejecting her, has ensured that fortress will never be built. The symbolism of the crown is everything here. The reference script speaks of Camilla rarely getting the crown, but it is more than that. King Charles isn't just withholding jewels. He is redefining the narrative. He has looked at the next 20 years and realized that Camilla is a footnote, while Catherine is the headline. Every speech he writes now is for Catherine to deliver. Every foreign trip he plans is designed to introduce Team Wales as the leading couple. In taking the crown from Camilla, he is performing an act of royal triage. He is amputating the past to save the future. What happens now? The palace is in a state of Cold War. Camilla is not leaving, but she has been neutralized. Her staff has been merged into the king's household, meaning she no longer has a private secretary loyal solely to her. Her charities have been notified that funding will shift toward Catherine's early years projects. The final demand was her last card, and the king folded her hand. For Catherine, This is a moment of vindication, but also immense pressure. She has not sought this fight. She has only ever wanted to raise her children and serve quietly. But the crown is heavy, and now she carries two. Her own future crown, and the weight of the one the king has just taken from his wife. She must be the queen who outshines the queen. It is a lonely pedestal. In the end, King Charles has revealed the cold, hard truth of the House of Windsor. Love is fleeting. The institution is forever. He loved Camilla enough to defy the world, but he loves the crown more. He loves his son more. And he loves the idea of a peaceful, popular future for the monarchy more than he loves the woman who held his hand through the fire. Camilla's final demand was rejected because the king's final demand is different. He demands that Catherine succeed. And for that, a crown had to be taken. As the lights dim on Queen Camilla's reign, a single spotlight clicks on. It is shining on Catherine, and it will never turn off.